Today we are joined by Frank Hannon, guitar player for Tesla. And man, what a treat it was talking to him. He is the chillest dude. He joined us on a Sunday, which I thought was great because typically people try to keep Sundays to themselves and don't do business and don't want to talk shop and all that sort of thing. But Frank was more than gracious. A lot of great stories. He's got a tour coming up with Tesla. They'll be out in March. You can check their website for tour dates. And yeah, just a chill dude. So much fun to talk to. And we covered a lot of history. We talked about the Texxas Jam. Who knew his father-in-law was Dicky Betts from the Almond Brothers?
Everyone who is listening and watching can both see me and Dave shit and fall back in it.
Yeah, exactly.
When he said that, my father-in-law is a guy named Dicky Betts. I don't know if you guys know who that. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And apparently he's been his father-in-law for 25 years or something like that. So it's no secret, but I don't think you and I were prepared to hear that. And it was like, wow, what a trip. So,
oh yeah, what did you do last night? Oh, I was jamming. Oh yeah, who was there? Oh, my father-in-law. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's Dicky Betts from Almond Brothers. Wait, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the stories about just crafting songs when he's like 16 and 17 years old with name producers like Ronnie Montrose and Max Norman and people like that. And we get a little glimpse into that. We could have done a whole episode about that era of Tesla where they're kind of growing up in Sacramento area and sort of, learning the ropes and learning how to be a kick-ass live show and things like that, which ultimately had a lot to do with the developing of their songwriting and their live show and becoming that local band that always gets to open for the cool, A-level bands that are coming through your town.
Yeah.
He talks a little bit about that. It's really cool. Frank is really old school, just underline old school. He's fucking old school.
Yeah.
He loves guitars. He loves to talk about guitars. He loves to talk about songwriting. He's a music man through and through.
And I think Tesla's one of the things people love and respect about Tesla is they never really catered to the times necessarily. They had their heyday, of course, in the 80s when, hair metal and glam metal and all that was kind of all over MTV and on the radio, whatever. But they stuck right in there and held their own. And I think it served them well because all these years later, we're talking about their songs. Not what pants they wore or what their hair looked like.
Right.
And yeah, you get that vibe talking to Frank. He is like, he even says on his website, he calls himself a heavy metal hippie. And it makes perfect sense. You could totally see this guy just totally going through his record collection. It's probably full of Allman Brothers and Skinner and, vintage Aerosmith and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I know a few people like that. I have some friends that are kind of heavy metal hippies. They love Merciful Fate. But they do yoga and they accompany belly dancer. They play belly dancer music on a classical guitar and shit like that. And they're wearing a Slayer shirt. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
But I think that there's something really cool about that. It's kind of down home and very earthed. That's a hard word to say.
Yeah.
It's very earthy and they're not afraid to dig into the dirt to grow something really good and true. And I think that something that we talk about in this episode, and you just mentioned the whole, hair metal and glam metal, which are two terms that are just, I mean, what the fuck really is that?
Yeah.
Glam to me is, early Sweet and Queen.
New York Dolls.
And maybe, but they're like kind of punk too, because it's kind of, I mean, New York Dolls and Queen, see what I mean? They're not the same kind of muso, right?
No, not at all.
Right. So there's more, there's two kinds of whatever that glam hair or whatever you're trying to do with that.
Yeah.
But I understand that people like to eat something out of a box and look at the pictures on the box while they eat it.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
he's not from that at all. It's got to be just regular guy about to mow your lawn or fix your car and then kick your ass with a song they wrote. That's what I think the school Frank comes from. And I
yeah.
think it's where ultimately everybody in Tesla comes from. I think Jeff Keith used to be a truck driver.
Cement truck drivers.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what the fuck? Right.
Yeah. I just felt like I mentioned this to Frank during the episode. I've lost track of the fact that we're talking to the guy from Tesla. He was just such a chill dude. It was just like me talking to you or whatever. Just a really relaxed, fun guy. We covered a lot of ground. We talked about Tesla's appearance at the Texxas Jam in 1987. We talked about their tours with David Lee Roth, Def Leppard, Motley Crue. As you mentioned, rubbing shoulders with Ronnie Montrose. Just a great storied career. And of course, I mentioned the fact that I think Tesla, man, almost single-handedly brought the acoustic guitar back in the rock world in the late 80s with that acoustic 5-man acoustical jam record.
To split it for a second, the idea that all what 80s metal was doing on MTV, and then all of a sudden these guys were playing acoustic sets up and down, throughout the US and on radio stations, helped that become trend.
Yeah.
And Frank even says himself, and you can hear it from him in this episode, but he says himself, that's not new. It's been around. It's been around forever.
Totally. He didn't claim to have created that at all.
I don't think you're wrong though, Dave. I think that there's
I think it came back because of Tesla. Yeah. And as we mentioned, I mean, everybody all of a sudden had to do an unplugged record. Everyone from Alice in Chains to Kiss was doing unplugged records after the success.
Days of the New.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But remember a lot of fun, a lot of fun today talking to Frank Hannon from Tesla on the Talk Louder podcast.
Yeah.